It's All Things Considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence. Today, amidst the crisis, we are welcoming back an artist who needs little introduction in these parts, Jack Johnson, who tomorrow will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day with his Kokua Festival 2020, live from home. It's a live stream starting at noon our time on Jack's Facebook page and Amazon's Music Twitch channel. And he's got a bunch of veterans from his Kokua festivals joining from their homes for a sort of one-of-a-kind show. There's also a cooking element we'll hear about, and fans can donate as it happens, supporting both Jack's Kokua Hawaii Foundation and a portion going to local coronavirus relief efforts, too, we'll hear as we welcome Jack Johnson back. Brother Jack, aloha and mahalo.
Aloha. How are you doing, Dave? Good to hear your voice.
Good to hear your voice, too, brother. Send you
I get to hear it every day, but it's nice to hear it in person.
Sending you a virtual hug and a high five. Do you listen to the show?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, it's good to know you're part of the afternoon ohana with us. And
yeah, of course.
First, before we go any further, had you been planning any tours or activities that got knocked out by this?
You know, we were going to go out and do a few shows this summer. We weren't going to do a full-on tour. We had a couple of festivals we were going to be part of that have been canceled, of course. Yeah, but it wasn't, I feel it's really impacted so many people in bigger ways than this. But, a lot of musicians that would have had full tours, it's a tricky thing to have to renegotiate your summer plans and all that. We didn't have too many shows. We were doing a few festivals, so it wasn't too bad of a change for us.
And you mentioned the bigger issue for sure, which is the ways that we've all really been touched by this crisis, whether it's things that you've seen or heard that hit a note in our own personal character. Perhaps it's the loss of musicians like John Prine or Manu Dibango or Ellis Marsalis, or it could just be the touching struggles of everyday Americans. Talk from your heart about what you've seen that's had a personal tug for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you named a lot right there, losing some of my favorite musicians. I got a lot of friends from touring now that are out on the East Coast and friends in Brooklyn, out in New Jersey, and so I've been in touch with them. And, it's small sacrifices here in Hawaii. I mean, every person you lose is a big sacrifice, but, it's the numbers. When you look at the numbers, we've been relatively lucky. But talking to friends, it reminds you when you speak to friends out on the East Coast how heavy it really is. And, so I've been in touch with them, just trying to send a lot of love out that way. And that was kind of what made us think about doing a Kokua festival this year. It wasn't a year we were even planning on doing a normal show, and it really just came about a week ago where we thought it's a nice time to put love out there and to spread some joy and try to connect people. Although we're all feeling a bit isolated right now, it's also we're lucky to be in a time where there's technology that we can connect and make sure to remind people that we're there for them and send in our love. And so that's the idea this year. We're doing Kokua festivals, put a little love out there.
Before we hear a little more about the festival, this isn't your first live stream during the crisis too, right? I think I saw you were part of another fundraiser that happened.
Yeah, we did. We did a Global Citizen from the home live stream, and it was a learning experience for me. It was nice. By the end, I kind of figured it out. At the beginning, the beginning was a bit awkward, and I've upgraded my internet since then because I had so many friends telling me that it was glitchy, and I got to upgrade a little bit. So hopefully this one will go a little smoother. But it was a nice experience, and it was a good reminder just in the following weeks how many friends that reached out from near and far that said how much they enjoyed being able to tune in and just to kind of have that live experience the best you can. I know it's not the same as being in the same room or at the shell like we usually do the festivals, but it's a different experience and it's fun. We're going to try to do a couple creative things. It's difficult to collaborate live, so we're going to find ways that we can collaborate by sending tracks around ahead of time. We've been working on those, and so yeah, it's not my first one. It is. I will say it's my second one.
Well, we're lucky for that other one because it sounds like some of the kinks that could come tomorrow have been worked out by your other experience, which is smart.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that this should go a little smoother, but we've also decided to add a bunch of curveballs of figuring out ways to collaborate, like I was saying, and that's been a really on the silver lining on this. It's we're trying to do something that's for community, but it also on a personal level, it's made me reach out to a bunch of musicians I haven't spoken to in, a year, months, sometimes even 5-10 years since the last time we saw each other at the Kokua Festival. Right. And it's reconnected me where we're sitting around tracks and trying to figure out how we can collaborate. So it's been a nice experience for all of us.
Well, let's unwrap this a little bit. So you've got these folks, and if folks went to over at the Shell, just so many great memories and so many different. You'd have so many artists per year that it creates a whole lot of memories. Each of the Kokua Fest could be a whole ton of nostalgia for people. So tell folks who you've got who's going to be joining you tomorrow at this all-star, very special event.
Yeah, well, and I wish I should have a list in front of me right now because I know I'm going to forget a few. But
well, I have a list to help you if you get.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so and we'll have maybe one or two extras if we get friends joining in late that decide to come in last minute. But we've got Lucas Nelson, he actually, the first time he played on the Kokua stage was with his father, Willie Nelson, and he was just a teenage kid. I remember him and his brother were up there jamming along, and it was one of the first times I think they'd played live at that point. And so he's going to be joining us. And we got Ziggy Marley, we got Ben Harper, G-Love from G-Love and Special Sauce, a few friends from the international music scene. And then from here, we got so many great friends between Anu Hea and Jake Shumbukuro, and we got Paula Fuga and John Cruz, Kavika Kahiapo. I hope I'm not forgetting one.
The Artiste brothers, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, of course. And, man, that's been a fun thing is I don't know how many people, hopefully everybody's been following Thunderstorm on The Voice. I know our family's been following him. I've never watched it before, and all of a sudden, like now we're super fans because it's just been so fun to watch Thunderstorm as he's just blowing minds and giving goosebumps across the world on The Voice lately.
And you're going to tell a little bit now. We were talking about the difficulty because I can imagine you're hosting this thing and you maybe play a little and then you pass it to somebody else. But from what you said, it sounds like you are going to try to interact. Explain, like, how are you going to play together on the same tunes? How will that work?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's we've kind of figured out that ideally what we're trying to do is entertain and make this thing fun. So we decided not to hold ourselves to the constraint of, like, it's got to be completely live because then it would just be one after another, people kind of streaming from their living rooms solo. We wanted to collaborate. So there will be a lot of moments where we're actually able to have a conversation and talk story and bring up memories of a certain song, and then that person can play the song. And then there'll be other times where we decided, man, it'd be sure a lot more fun to have some harmonica on this song or some slide on this or whatever. So we sent a few tracks around, and hopefully I'm not giving away too much right now. But yeah, that's the idea, is that we'll build some ahead of time by putting on a set of headphones and listening. And it's not too different than tracking in a studio where you have the headphones on and you can hear somebody,
right? And
you close your eyes and you tend to kind of go into your own world and try to get as deep into the song as you can. And it's kind of similar, you happen to be an ocean apart sometimes, but you can make this recording, which is really cool. And so it's live, in a different way. It's like there's no edits. You go right through it still. You play it as if you're playing with your friend, and then we put it out there a day later. Things will be pre-recorded. Some will be straight live. They'll be like where we connect the people in that moment, and they're playing music live in that moment. But unfortunately, we haven't found it at least yet, and I'm sure it's probably coming soon where you can, and we've given it a shot a few times of trying to, but there's just enough latency where it's like a second later that your voice comes, so you kind of have to do those pre-recorded. Right. You know what I mean, to be able to layer with each other.
I get it. Yeah, there's the timing is just such that I can only imagine just a fraction of a second off, everything just starts to crumble.
I could actually tell you, G-Love and I were doing it this morning. We tried it like 5 times, and it was so funny because we kept being like, no, it's you, man, you're behind me, and like we kept trying. We're like, all right, you just can't do it. We couldn't quite link up. It was like just. It sounded like he was trying to sing an echo of me.
Right. And there's another part of this which is nice, too, which is during this time of isolation for a lot of folks, you mentioned that it's not really just about the music, too, right? There's going to be this nature of you guys getting to talk story and to share a little bit because you have a lot of personal experiences that connect you via your relationships with all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, personal relationships, and then what the festival has been like from different angles. It's like friends that have been at the festival as a fan some years, and then later they play the festival, and just that feeling, trying to recreate that feeling a bit of coming together and what music does. So there's that aspect. We're trying to raise some money too. It's not the key element. We want to just put on a free show for everybody to be able to tune in and just have a great time. But for anybody that has the means to donate, we're going to be raising money for Kokua Hawaii Foundation, but also for Aloha Harvest and Full Calabash Fund and the Chef Hui, which are all doing great work right now to try to make sure that people who don't have access to healthy food have that access, so trying to help out with food here in Hawaii and making sure people have it.
And that's now during the crisis, that aspect of the food that you're talking about. And so how do people, Jackson, when they're watching it, like let's say they tune in, for example, on your Facebook page, they go to Jack Johnson's Facebook page at noon tomorrow. The thing comes on. What will you have, like a link up there for if people want to make a donation?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And the funny thing is, I could open the door in the room I'm in, and I could put you on speaker, and you'd hear people trying to figure all that out right now. We've never pulled something together so quickly before. It's like a week ago we were like, hey, let's do this. And so anyways, I think you're exactly right, though. There's going to be information along the bottom of the screen of how people could donate to these causes.
And when we think about that, helping people out, that's obviously what the Kokua has done all those years, those festivals that all these artists came together. It was to raise funds to help out, and your nonprofit does that, and then you're diverting a portion of it for this. When we think about the long-term picture of you coming back out and trying to do, or just everybody doing stuff, like you said, you've been listening to the show. I don't know if you've heard some of those in the last several days. I guess it's been projections from the mayor on phases for reopening, I guess you could call it. And entertainment venues, understandably, always seem to come in last to reopen because they're trying so hard to keep people safe and establish things in a pattern that will not result in a big spike. And so when I think about you're kind of like an expert witness, if you will. You've done a lot of different venues and setups over the course of your life. What do you think is going to happen? Like concerts eventually, I mean, how is this going to ever work to get people, whether it's a small club with a few hundred where you're really just inches from another person, or those big festivals that you were saying had to get bumped? How's this going to work? What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, man, that's such a good question. I've always had this approach with since we're speaking specifically about the music industry, it's ever since I've gotten involved with it, I've always tried to be real flexible. Things have changed so much over the years. When I first got in, this is going to really date me, but my original demos when we were first going to record labels and all that, we had actually cassette tapes, like little 4-track tapes, and I would give people out a tape. And then CDs were kind of a new deal. It was already around, but it was the beginning of that. And then everything went to streaming, and there was always people kind of resisting of like, no, you got to stick with this. And this is different, obviously, what you're talking about. But I've always tried to just be flexible and roll with things. And with this one, I don't pretend to know. It's like, who knows what the live experience is going to feel like after that, after this is over, and what the new normal will feel like. And we're just trying to be real open-minded and trying things out like this that can still bring people together, because there's no telling how long it's going to be before we can gather in a room to listen to live music again. And but I think I'm more of a music fan than a musician myself. I grew up just always going to live shows in Hawaii and going to get my tapes and my CDs at Hungry Ear Music when I was a kid, and just loving that feeling of spending hours in there. Like, how am I going to spend my $10 today? And like going through all the albums before I chose. And anyways, I love music so much, so I hope this live experience can get back to being where we can be together in a room and listen to music.
Well, in the meantime, this is what it'll be, and who knows? I mean, obviously, the digital world has made it very difficult for the recorded aspect of music, but maybe in some way, these online things could eventually be the new way if touring can't ever resume. But like you said, it's hard to get a crystal ball out with something like this. What was the last in-person thing you were at before this started?
Oh, that's a good question. Listening to Paula Fuga in my backyard.
Well, lucky you.
Not too long ago. She lives down the street, and I'm lucky to get to play music with her, listen to her do songs. Actually, it's funny you say that. We were Paula and I got a really beautiful chance to hang out with Ed Sheeran recently, and I almost feel bad to talk about the experience because he was so sweet about just showing up just to hang out. He didn't make anything about it, and when he walked up, he just came to my house by himself. He just had a day that he was coming through, and he really wanted to hang out, so he came out to the North Shore, and Paula started hearing he was coming, and she wanted to hang out too, so I called her up, and the three of us just went and sat around and played music together, and he was about the sweetest guy I've ever met, and he was so generous with sharing new songs and listening to Paula's songs, and bring it up just because, not to be a name dropper, but just because it was a pretty magical experience to sit around and
Sure.
share songs together, and it was right before all this kind of happened.
Right.
So we were still able to sit pretty close together and share songs, and that was a really nice experience.
Yeah, you don't forget. That's that's why you bring it up, because it's kind of like, it's different than maybe a 9/11 or a JFK, because it's like, where were you on that moment? This is sort of like but similar. It's like, what was the last thing you got to do before they pulled the plug, And if I could just share with you, because it was kind of crazy for me. I grew up, maybe you did too, watching Carol Burnett on TV, and she came and played in town. And I said, man, do you want to go? It was March 7th. Everything was starting to fall apart. I was kind of scared. Do I want to go to this? And luckily, I had a lot of empty seats around me. And it was crazy because after the thing, I got to say hi to her. And as I approached, I was thinking, what do you do? How close do you get to someone like that? And she just shoved her hand out. I was like, wow, okay. And then we stood there and did a picture. I said, can I touch you? She said, sure. So you're right. I mean, you don't forget things like that, because it seems like we're on the edge of something very different.
I was just thinking about what you're saying. It is interesting. All these different thoughts are coming to me about the weeks before. Mrs. Betsy, we have an amazing teacher that passed away recently that was so loved in this community, and it was kind of the last big gathering that everybody did, and it was right around that moment where everybody was like, okay, I think we have to start being apart, but it was just a lot of last hugs, and it was such a moving experience because she was so loved in this community. And so anyways, my mind drifted off.
No, I get it. That's a great memory.
But, just thinking about Kokua Hawaii Foundation, too, just not to jump back, but a thought that passed a minute ago, with what we try to do, this is a different year, and we're trying to direct funds to the immediate needs of food accessibility right now. But it's something we always kind of work at. Connecting kids to their food at a young age is something really important at the foundation. That's why we do these garden experiences and field trips to local farms and plant that seed with kids at a young age, where they see if we can grow food so easily in Hawaii, why do we ship 90% of it in? And you kind of start to see in moments like this when, food is gold. It's freshly produced, healthy food that hasn't gone through the hands of too many people. It's just the farmer and those getting it to our doorstep or to the market. It's a valuable thing. And so, that's what Kokua Hawaii Foundation is always working towards, is trying to strengthen our local food system by working with kids.
That's always been an important thing, and what you point out now more than ever with the food supply chain being affected. We were just talking about that, as you probably have heard over the last few days on the show. It's a great point to be able to do more here locally, and obviously at a time like this, you realize, wow, wouldn't it be an incentive to really ratchet up how much food we can produce locally, so it doesn't have to be dependent on the ships and the barges to get here.
Yeah, and people have been talking about the silver lining, and that's hopefully one of them. Is I know I've had a lot more conversations about local food producers and farms, and just talking to friends that do subscription, like CSA boxes and like FarmLink, and their subscription has just gone exponentially up, and friends that are chicken farmers or, those kind of things, just like how much support they're getting right now. So I know it's a really tough time for the local food industry with restaurants, and a lot of friends that are having a rough time with that. Ed Kinney and Mark Noguchi, it just reminded me, are both joining us, who are obviously going through a tricky time with restaurants having to be closed right now. But they're joining us for this show and going to be doing some cooking demos and helping to spread the joy and kind of remind us, about cooking with family and those kind of things. So that'll be a fun aspect of the show.
Yeah, cooking demos. And is that going to be something where maybe you ask some of your friends, like you could ask Ziggy, hey, Ziggy, what is the best jerk chicken recipe maybe you have or something? Are you going to
involve? There you go. Yeah, that's a good idea. Now I'm going to be. You could be like, hey, that was my idea.
It's good stuff. And we're all going to be tuned in. It's 50th anniversary celebration of Earth Day with his Kokua Festival 2020. He's calling it Live from Home. Jack Johnson live stream starting at noon Hawaii time tomorrow. You can go to Jack's Facebook page or Amazon's Music Twitch channel to learn more. And as you heard, Jack's going to be both playing a role. You'll be a little bit of both musician and kind of like a Bill Graham / Tom Moffat. You'll be introing some stuff, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll be doing lots of intros and outros, and it should be a lot of fun. These are all a lot of my heroes and friends in the music world, so it's really fun to be connecting with them in this time.
I hope that we can stay in touch, and if the stay-at-home thing sticks around, maybe we'll have you back with your guitar remotely on the show or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. Let's do that. Let's plan on it.
And talk about whatever your next venture is to help the community. Jack Johnson, thank you so much, brother.
Hey, thank you, Dave. Talk to you soon.
Be safe. Good luck tomorrow.
You too. Aloha.